Katherine Johnson, breaking barriers at NASA through perseverance and dedication. Katherine Johnson's noble success as an African-American woman at NASA from 1958 to 1986 was an important accomplishment for millions like her worldwide. Her perseverance and dedication allowed her to be able to calculate the flight path at a time people like her weren't allowed to. By breaking racial and gender barriers, she changed the mindsets of many people across the nation.
Early life. Katherine Johnson was born on August 26, 1918 in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, to Joylet and Joshua Coleman. Her father was a farmer and her mother was a teacher. At an early age, she enjoyed and excelled at mathematics. Math had always come easily to me, she stated in her autobiography, Reaching for the Moon. Her childhood was inquisitive and she was always looking to help people. Her brother Charlie struggled at math, and even though she was many grades below him, she would always help him. Soon, one of the teachers who taught at the segregated school noticed Katherine's smarts and got other children to start a kindergarten class together. From here, she continued to excel, skipping grades left and right. In 1926, her mother and father made a decision to move to Institute, West Virginia, home to the West Virginia Colored Institute. Here they rebuilt their lives, starting with her father finding a new job, which proved to be challenging. He hoped to find work at the school Katherine and her siblings were set to attend. Being turned down and unable to find jobs for African American men in their town, he returned to White Sulphur Springs, where he labored long hours and extra jobs. After that, she continued to face struggles all the way until the stock market crashed when she was 11 years old. I will never forget the Great Depression, which lasted more than a decade, she remembers. If finding work wasn't hard enough for an African American already, the Depression made it even harder to find honest work. Somehow, she was lucky enough to be able to stay in high school since that's something her family prioritized. She graduated high school at the age of 13. The next fall, she started college at age 14. To assist in the payment of her education, she worked for the president of the institute. The summer of her freshman year, she worked in a hotel resort where she practiced her French with the cook every day. This led to her love of French. From there, she decided to major in French as well as math. A profession in math as an African American woman at the time was unheard of, so her mother was very wary of this decision. Finally, in 1937, at age 18, Katherine graduated with degrees in mathematics and French. She had earned the highest grade point average of any student during the time the school had existed. She then started her first job teaching math and French at schools in Virginia and West Virginia.
After slavery ended in 1865, America was still divided. Southerners did not want people of color to be free. Everything was divided from sections of the bus to drinking fountains. This is otherwise known as segregation. Activists like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Hosea Williams worked to end segregation in the U.S. In 1961, John F. Kennedy began an expansion of the space program and committed to the idea of trying to get a man on the moon by the end of the decade. On May 25th, he asked Congress for $7 billion to $9 billion to help fund the space program. And so, a newly funded space program started working on sending John Glenn into space. Started at NASA. After having 3 daughters, Joylette, Connie, and Kathy, Katherine returned to her teaching jobs. But while at a family gathering in 1952, she heard from a relative that the NACA was hiring African Americans for a new computing department. She applied for the position, but sadly she was put on the waiting list. Follow new leads and don't give up. Keep trying, Katherine thought to herself in her novel, Reaching for the Moon. She quickly realized she needed to find a job in the meantime, so she applied for a substitute teaching job at the Collins P. Huntington High School and began teaching there. She enjoyed making students more passionate about math, helping them achieve success. Soon after, she was notified that NACA had accepted her application and she would start the following year. In 1953, she joined Langley Research Center, a branch of the NACA. When she finally started working, she was put on a team of computers or colored women doing simple math problems for the white men upstairs. This position was not challenging enough for her, and NACA agreed with that too. Katherine was quickly placed on an all-male flight research team, and NACA was changed to NASA in 1958. Katherine Johnson once said, "Everything was so new, the whole idea of going into space was new and daring. There were no textbooks, so we had to write them." Which shows that this opportunity at NASA benefited her significantly since it challenged her.
What she overcame. During Katherine's early career at NASA, she was faced with acts of discrimination on a daily basis. For example, at NASA there were segregated bathrooms and cafeterias. Workers of color would have to walk to the other side of the building to find a colored restroom. Katherine would repeatedly not be allowed to go to her own meetings regarding the statistics of the flight, as the men thought women should not be present. Her dreams really started to take form as she contributed to the Notes on Space Technology document in 1957. Later, in 1960, Katherine worked with engineer Ted Skopinski to write a report. The report's purpose was to propose an orbital space mission where the landing point of the spacecraft was predetermined, and after finishing the report, Katherine received credit as an author. Katherine now marked the first time that a woman from the Flight and Research Department had gotten credit for a research paper or report. In 1952, Katherine was summoned to help support the math that would supposedly direct John Glenn's spaceship. Because of their lack of confidence in the old machines, during the preparation for takeoff, John Glenn said, "Get the girl." Katherine recalls Glenn saying, "If she says they're good, then I'm ready to go." Because of Katherine's intelligence, exceptional concentration, and effort she applied to all of her assignments, she completed 26 reports and completed research that helped NASA tremendously and made space travel a lot easier to control. Though Katherine Johnson is just one woman, she made a huge difference, showing everyone that genders and races don't define our actions.
Legacy. In 2015, President Obama awarded her the Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor for her bravery and influence in modern day.
In her 33 years at NASA, Katherine was a pioneer who broke the barriers of race and gender, showing generations of young people that everyone can excel in math and science and reach for the stars.
December of 2016, the movie Hidden Figures was released, telling us all about Katherine's journey as well as highlighting other important figures such as Dorothy Vaughan and Mary Jackson. Next, on December 22, 2017, NASA dedicated a facility to her, now called Katherine G. Johnson Computational Research Facility. Katherine was humbled to have all of this recognition so late in her life. It took over 70 years for people to recognize her talents, but finally she got a movie, an award, and a facility dedicated to her name. These things will help define her for many years to come, making her not be forgotten. Katherine passed away February 24th, 2020, at age 101. After her death, many spoke out about her bravery and honored her for her work at NASA. Jim Bridenstine, NASA's administrator, described her as an American hero and declared that her pioneering legacy will never be forgotten. Katherine lived a long and fulfilling life and lived to see her talents be recognized by everyone around her. Although she isn't with us anymore, she will still be remembered, and her legacy will live on in our hearts. One of Katherine's most famous quotes states, "Girls are capable of everything men are capable of doing. Sometimes they have more imagination than men." This quote is so simple, yet tells a story about the gender barrier she had to overcome. Simply put, this quote told millions the short truth: women deserve equal rights. This quote and Katherine's defining acts helps weave the intricate story that is Katherine Johnson's life, telling future generations that they too can reach for the moon.